Star Wars Geek Girl. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Geek Girl. I'm Zoe, and as usual, I'm here with Lizzie.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about Andor episode 4 called Aldani. Um, yeah, we're catching up. We're ready for episode
Yes.
5. I believe in us. I think we can keep this going. I think we can stay caught up the whole time. I believe in us.
Yes. I
Very
should be able to.
We're gonna try our best.
hmm
So do you have any spoiler-free thoughts on this episode?
Hmm. I think, as always, it was a very good episode. And um I just like seeing Andor's like I'm trying to think of I feel like this is spoiler free, but I like seeing his little process and how he's slowly becoming Cassian, but also right now he's like I can't tell. This should be fun, but he's very much like Jin right now, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really cool and interesting to see because he's like Jin is Jin in Rogue One. Like Cassian is like a whole different person from Cassian in this, and I think it's really cool. That's pretty much what I have to say because that I just like that little part that we see with Cassian is like showing how he's slowly becoming Cassian that we know from
Mm-hmm.
Rogue One.
I agree. I think Cassian's his arc is so interesting. Because I remember before the show came out, a lot of people I'd be like, "Oh, are you gonna watch Andor?" And they'd be like, "I don't know, I just don't know if I don't really care about Cassian Andor that
Mm-hmm.
much. He's just like a guy in Rogue One, which is fair if you're not
Just a
super
guy.
into stuff. But I think this show is doing such a good. I mean, for me, I was already invested.
Right.
But I feel like even for people who weren't already invested, I think it's making it very easy to get invested. And I think, like you said, the parallels between him and Jin, I think, are really cool. And I think that's something, I don't know, watching Rogue One after this show is done is something I want this show to go on forever, but also I want it to end so I can watch Rogue One with all of it. And
All
I
the
feel like
information.
I feel like it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
I keep wanting to because I have this thing where I think everyone has it, but hopefully, but you get into something and then you just want to talk to someone who doesn't he knows zero things
Yeah.
about it and just explain
Mm-hmm.
the entire thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So every time someone's like, "Oh, what's new with you?" I'm like, "So the shonen Andor."
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, I did that with my chef the other day. And I was because he usually asks me about video games and blah 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 because he knows that's the only way I will talk. I'm just really bad at talking sometimes, and I apologize for just in general of that. If you ever come up to me and are like, "Oh my god, how are you?" I'm gonna be like, "Good," and then I'll take me a few seconds and I'm like, "Oh, how are you?"
I feel that. I feel really
Yeah.
bad. I was a couple people at Celebration that came up to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, early for podcast," and be like, "Oh great," and I felt really bad because I was inside, I was like, "Oh my gosh," really, I was so excited, but talking to them, I was like, "Oh," because I just didn't know how to communicate,
Respond. Yeah.
and I feel really bad. So if you're listening and that happened to you, I'm so sorry. I promise I was way more enthusiastic. I was also dead tired from this Celebration too. So there's that.
Yeah.
But
A
yeah.
lot of factors, but chef he's usually like, "Oh, what new video games are you playing?" And I'm like, "Okay, so Undertale," and then or there was another, oh, like Splatoon. Anyway, but this time I was like, "So you know this show do you know Star Wars? Do you know the Star War?
Do you know what a
Yep.
Star Wars is?
You have time to talk about our Lord and Savior Star War?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I watch some of it." And I was like, "Okay. So basically," and I talked about Andor, and surprisingly, again, surprisingly for a chef, he's pretty liberal, and like he's a very cool person. And so I was like, yeah, it's like talks about it, like it shows like connections of this and this and this and this. And he was like, oh, that's so cool. And so, but then he like came up to me the next morning, like that I was working, and he was like, oh, yeah, that show that you mentioned the other day. And I was like, Andor, and he's like, yeah, Andor, like, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Andor.
Andor. And then he
Andor
was like,
lives.
yeah, I watched it for a little bit, and then I fell asleep. And I was like, oh. And he was like, no, 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 it wasn't boring. I just got out from work and I was like, oh, let's watch this thing that Lizzy said, and then fell asleep. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's good that it wasn't boring then. He was like, yeah, it seemed good so far in the 15 minutes. I was like, all right, that's good. But yeah, so I just, it's very good. And then from Zoe's, so from our last podcast episode, Zoe mentioned a baby Jin and a baby Casa playing with each other, and I finished it the other day, and like I was like squealing in my head because I was like, oh my god, they're so tiny. And I love because Zoe was also sending me like all these toys that Jin that Jin
You
was,
asked for the toy. You asked for toys.
yeah, I did, and like I wasn't disappointed. Because it was just like there was so many that Jin had that like I feel like we saw like not even half of that on like the screen. And I just think it's so cute because like there's a few like astromechs and like robots and like what's it called, like ships that were like handmade by her, and they're the cutest. um and then she had like this really like this Tuca doll, but it was very like
It's a
star shaped. It was named Starry, but it was so elongated on its limbs. It was so funny. Um, and then there was like this other Tuca cat doll, and it just had the biggest head imaginable. It was beautiful. But
I
anyway,
think
yeah.
my favorites are Was Work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the other one? Bad
I liked.
Mr. Goob. And
I
my
also
absolute
liked.
favorite is a Bommy the Gig.
Yes, I liked that one. I also liked, I think it was like Mr. Iggy, and it was like
Oh, the
an
IG.
IG. Yeah, it was like an IG droid toy, and I just like the name Mr. Iggy.
Lucky has a blue bit is also pretty good.
Yes,
Oh, I just realized what that is.
but
In Catalyst, um, there's a pilot named Haz who helps them escape uh, the Empire. Oh,
interesting. Jin's toys, everyone. But yeah, if you have a second to look at Jin's toys, they're very cute and very funny to look at.
the Rogue One Visual Dictionary has like a whole spread of them.
Mm-hmm.
Opie Opie's also pretty good.
Yes, but yeah, that was my spoiler-free thought on Cassian Andor.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. Cassian's art and parallels to Jin are super interesting. Um, I think as much as I liked the sort of independence the first episodes had, it was so awesome in this. And this is a spoiler. They posted this on all the promos before this episode came out to go back to Coruscant and see some familiar characters. And it just going back to Coruscant, especially, was just really good. It was an amazing episode. And this episode had like a lot of little things, like sort of like foreshadowing-ish, and also some small revelations about Cassian's past. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of good. I'm excited. This episode was definitely more of a setup. Like it was a bit more of like episodes like 1 or 2 rather than 3 that has a bit more of like a bigger climax. This is definitely more along the lines of the first two, where it's obviously setting something up that's going to be awesome, and I'm really excited to see what that thing is. And I'm very excited for this show to really explore Mon Mothma too, because she gets so little.
Yeah.
Like, she's in a lot of things. Rebels does it really well, but I'm really excited for like a deep dive on her, because like she doesn't have a book. You know, everyone gets books. She doesn't have a book. Like, I'm so looking forward to seeing her more as a character rather than just like oh, this is Senator Mon Mothma. Like, she's a leader. She's all these things, and getting to know her as a person um, is going to be great. And
I
it
think
already has great.
Yeah, I also think it's cool because she like I feel like this is slightly spoilery, but she's in the episode and like we see her and I think it's really cool because she reminds me a lot of like Mon Mothma Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we kind of see her like get upset. I guess maybe that's just the parallel that I see, but like I don't know. It's there's something, and it's gone from my brain. But just like see, it something for some reason reminded me of her from Rebels, and then also her now. But yeah, cannot remember. I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rebels out of anything shows her the most as a person. And even then, like, she's not in Rebels terribly much. But you know, like when like in Empire and I think Revenge of the Sith is the only one where she wasn't completely cut, but she's still like background. Clone Wars, she's in it, but not as much as like Padme or Bail. And yeah, I'm just so excited to be like get to know her personal life, I think, you know.
Yeah.
It's great. All right, we're gonna go into spoilers now. I can't do this anymore. I'm so excited.
Sounds
This
good with
episode
me.
is so good. Yes, we start with basically where we left off. Cassian and Luthen
Luthen did
flying.
not smile back at
He
Cassian.
did not. He did not. Actually, I think we don't get any flashbacks in this episode, if I'm correct, for the first time.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So I wonder if they're like kind of done with the flashbacks and we'll maybe learn about more about that part of Cassian's life in other ways, or if it's just they just skipped an episode. I hope they have more
Yeah.
flashbacks because I'm very curious and I'd like to see it, but I'm also okay with not having them, like if that's just not in the plan, you know?
Yes. I also think it's interesting because like maybe we don't have flashbacks because maybe Luthen seems to know Cassian from, whatever. I have no idea how, but like it would be like um interesting to see it like from Cassian's own perspective, which I guess is the memories, but also from Luthen,
Luthen.
and like how he knows Cassian and how he figured that out. Because that's some deep information that I don't like. It's kind of like it's it. I want to know where he got that information at all, like just about Cassian, like where he's from, like
and for how long
dad. Yeah, his dad Clem, which I just like when you mentioned it in the last podcast, I just like that made everything sound so much more sense on why he chose Clem, because I was like, why would he say Clem? Clem is like the dumbest name. Like it's one letter off away from like clam.
Someone named Clem could be listening to this right now.
I know. I'm sorry. It's not dumb. It's just like one letter away from clam. Anyway, it was also just so random at the time. I was like, Clem? That's the best thing you could come up with? I understand now. It makes sense.
Yeah, so Cassian and Luthen have like a little, not confrontation, it's definitely not nearly as tense as it was in the warehouse in episode 3, but they're kind of like Cassian's like really like what am I doing here? Come on, man. And I think it was a scene where I think Luthen says something like, like you just want to put like a stick in the eye of the Empire, and he's like, I think this is when he says like, oh, like you're destined to die fighting them, and I was like, oh, I mean,
Yeah,
it is,
that
but come
hurted.
on. Like, and it's so great because it's such a, I feel like destiny is something that's always kind of been a part of Star Wars, and to have it, but it's normally like, oh, it's Luke's destiny to bring balance to the Force, and it's like, oh, yay. And then this is like, oh, it goes the other way too.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because I was like thinking about it, and I was talking to a friend last night. I was like, oh yeah, like I was talking to her about Andor and stuff, and I was like, yeah, like you could probably like watch Andor and like not have to know much of anything else about Star Wars, like maybe a little bit, like know that the Empire exists and like that's it.
Know
Um,
that there is a Star Wars.
yeah, and then I was like, oh, if she watches it and then also watches Rogue One, that would be sad. Um,
So good.
and I cried inside a little bit. That's okay.
Yeah. Um, there's so many like little things where it's so many little parallels, I guess, to Rogue One that makes me, because like we're watching this and it's like, oh, it's Cassian, like he's the main character, and but there's still that like where it ends, and I think that adds so much to it. Like on one hand, I'm like, it would be kind of cool to watch this and then watch Rogue One not knowing, but
Mm-hmm.
also I think the knowledge of fate adds so much when you're watching it. Adds so much emotion to it that it wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, when you talk about fate, it reminds me of that one Visions episode with that one guy that my dad likes to use as an emoji all the time. I don't remember what
What?
it's called. The one with the like dumb face. Um, it's like
Akakiri?
it's like, huh?
Is it the Akakiri
Akakiri.
episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, because it just reminds me of that and how like he was trying so hard to tell himself that like not everything is up to fate and like he can change his own fate and he cannot. It
No.
didn't happen and
Mm-hmm.
it's sad. But then there's also like the weird possibilities of like Ezra literally pulling out Ahsoka from where she was probably supposed to die.
But was it fate for him to pull her out?
Exactly. That's my
You
thing. It's
know?
all a thing.
When does it end? Yeah. Yeah. It's a crazy world out here. Yeah, so we Cassian and Rail talk some more. Um, Cassian talks about like, oh, like, are you a rebel? Like, I'm not really interested in being a rebel. Like, I just want to survive and stuff. And then we get, and this was like, it was like one line, and it made me like I sat straight up. I was like, what did he just say?
Mm-hmm.
Cassian was in prison, which we figured he had criminal charges that
Imprisoned
they read off.
in prison.
And this is the big one. Cassian fought on Minban, and he was 16. Said his unit, like most of them, didn't survive, and he was a cook on Minban. For people who aren't obsessed with Solo, Minban is where Han fights with the rebellion or with the Empire, and then runs off with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, they were together. Did Cassian make Han food? Like,
Maybe.
oh
I
my gosh, did they meet? Because we just compared Cassian to Han, you know,
Mhm.
as far as where the characters are now, and then it's like, what they like the worlds are colliding. Um, that was a lot for me. Immediately, and also it's interesting that Cassian fought for the Empire. I think we can get the impression that it was a part of his like prison sentence or whatever, just because they brought up those two things together. which like sucks. By the way, that's absolutely terrible. Um, but it's still like Cassian fought for the Emperor or for the Empire, and like I just feel like that's such an interesting little thing to mention. I hope we, even though I don't need flashbacks to him and Dan. It'd be cool to see like Han and Chewie, like I don't need like big flashbacks or any big story about it. But I just kind of want to know like how does Cassian like how does having fought for the Empire affect how Cassian feels?
Yeah, I also, this is on a different side note, but he was a cook. I think he was making chilaquiles, and thank you, Star Wars, for that. Even though he was doing it like from the Empire,
Do
maybe
you
he was
think Han
making.
ate them?
Yes, Han definitely ate some really good Mexican chilaquiles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's canon.
It's been decided.
Yes, no one can tell me otherwise.
Do
I will not take no for an answer.
you think they fed any Chewie when he was in the little cage? Or just people?
I think just people.
Maybe
Like
Cassian
maybe,
felt bad for him and slipped him some.
yeah. I was gonna say maybe Cassian was like, "Well, here you go. Get some chilaquiles,
She's
some
like, poor
red sauce
Chewie,
for your people."
poor Chewie, you need some real food. Chewie, cute. I
Do you
can't
think
say it.
Chewie actually ate people?
No, no way.
Okay,
Maybe. Well, when you're
that's what I
starving and they're throwing people at you.
you. I mean, I know he definitely killed them, but like, did he eat them
I mean,
actually?
were they giving him other food?
I don't think so. I doubt it.
So, I
So,
mean,
but
there weren't
can
any
he?
bodies down there.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw Chewie eat a porg, almost.
But that's like me
I
eating
guess Chewie
like.
did have a, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna judge Chewie. They were probably, well, if they were thrown in by Imperials and they weren't Imperials. Uh,
I won't judge
yeah,
him, but
I'm just not
I'm
gonna think
just
about it.
saying. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. So then Luthen offers Cassian a place in like a fight, like a team thing they're working on, like a mission. Mission is what it is. And
yeah,
he's gonna give him like 200,000 credits, and he gives him a cool like kyber crystal
necklace.
necklace, which is another parallel to Jin.
Yeah,
As
that
he says, sort of
entire
like
time.
a down payment. So like it's something worth a lot that Cassian can give back to Luthen when he actually gets paid.
Hmm.
Um, Also, this guy is so rich. So rich.
I um what's it called? I was
I'm
gonna say
not sure what
something.
the
Oh,
exchange rate of dollars to credits are,
oh, we talked
but
about
he's
this
gotta
before.
be rich, rich.
Star War credit to US dollars. But what was I gonna say? Oh, just
One
like,
dollar is about 1.44 credits. So it's a roughly even.
yeah.
So
So like 1.5 times like 200 whatever thousand credits he's giving him.
or would it be divide oh man, math.
No, let's not do math. It is not math
I
time.
think it would be divided by 1.5 because the dollar is worth more than $1 is worth more than one credit. So
Yes.
it'd be divided. So 200,000 credits is about 133. Wait, I can do 100, 138, 888 dollars and 89 cents, roughly. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you
But
saying?
I was gonna say that like the biggest thing for me that I saw that he was like Jin, besides like the literal kyber crystal he was given, um, was like how he's talking about how like Jin talking to Saw Guerrera and how he's like, you know, don't you want to do something? Like, don't you want to help? Like, you can stand to see like the Empire's flag reign, blah blah blah. And she's like, it's not a problem if you don't look up. Like, I don't remember what he says specifically, but he says something kind of close to that, and it makes me sad, and it makes me like, oh, poor baby. Like, it just it was very good. I especially because like then you know we know that later on he teams up with Jin, and like I don't think he despises her, but like there's a point where it just doesn't seem like he likes her or like trusts her at least. And you know, he probably saw himself in her a few times, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times actually, which is also interesting to think about, especially because, you know, later on he's like, you know what, I will fight. I will fight with you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so sad. So
Yeah.
good. But
And
so
again, it's
sad.
another reason I'm excited to watch Rogue One again after this show is over. Like you said, because I feel like Jin or Cassian seeing himself in Jin too much is not something I considered before watching. Because, you know, Cassian is um a little self-righteous. He's like, well, you know, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. You know, the full story isn't that he was, you know, doing rebellion things since he was 6. And he did live a at least sizable portion of his life where he was a lot like Jin, or like Jin was in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Um, so it's, you know, it's interesting to it'll be interesting to go back and watch Rogue One again and look at like Cassian and how he perceives Jin. It'll be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um,
Um,
but yeah, I really like that, especially because it helps my drawing.
yeah.
I think they would play together, even though
Yeah.
they're like 11 years apart. But
11 years
like,
apart, we figured it out.
I'm just saying, in
You
another
can
universe, if they
babysit.
were still kids.
You could babysit too.
Yeah. In my little universe of that drawing, they're the same age.
Of course, of course. Um, yeah. What else was I gonna say about Cassian? Yeah, just, you know, again with like I forget now already. Disregard. Um,
I love
yeah,
the kyber crystal though. It's so
it's
pretty.
really
It's
pretty.
huge though. It's
It's
pretty, but it's huge.
it's why it's worth a lot.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's pretty crazy. What was I gonna say about
I
Cassian?
got this necklace from the store the other day. It has nothing to do like it was it was at a crystal shop because like they're just cool to look at. And I went in and sometimes they have like crystal necklaces and stuff and I'm like, haha, Star Wars. But um but I went and I saw this necklace and it just had an acorn on it. And it was like it had an acorn and then you could lift the little acorn cap off and put things in it. It's a pretty big acorn. And and I was like, I don't need that. It's really cute, but like shouldn't I like should probably get like a crystal necklace if I'm ever gonna get a necklace. But I have like one necklace, maybe like two. Like I have the one you gave me, and then I have like one that my mom made me, and that was it. Um, and I was like, I should have another one. And then I didn't grab it, and then I went back, and the acorn was still there, and it was calling for me. So I got the acorn necklace.
Nice.
Yes, but there's also just a lot of cool crystal necklaces there. And each time I'm like, it's a kyber crystal,
It
and
could
no
be.
one can tell me differently.
I still can't remember what I was gonna say about Cassian. Darn it. All right.
That he's
Maybe I'll
very
come to it.
handsome and can make the best chilaquiles.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's what I was gonna say.
Awesome.
Glad we're in agreement. Uh, yeah. So anyway, after this scene, Luthen convinces Cassian to do this job. We go to Coruscant, And the shots of Coruscant are really cool. They're like you get a lot of the beauty we're used to from like the prequels and Clone Wars, but also some shots where it things feel a bit like hollow, like it's a very like industrial architecture. Um, it's not like what we see in like Naboo or even Ferrix, where there's like a lot of character to everything. It's
Mhm.
like clean, smooth, a bit suffocating, which I think
Mm.
worked very well for the scenes. It was really cool. But we're in the ISB office, and a new character who's using a lot of trailers. I assume she's going to play a bigger role. Deidre Miro is in the meeting, and it's a very like it was I don't know. I think it's really funny when Star Wars characters do extremely mundane things. I just think that's very I don't know why, but that's my sense of humor. Is like they're in this galaxy far, far away. There's lightsabers, aliens, giant creatures, a magical force, big battles, like all this, huge things. And then these guys are in this like really annoying meeting reading their reports. Like
They gotta make that dough. Feed their family.
it's just like a very grounding thing. And I love it every time. I think it's so interesting to see. And it's just also really funny sometimes.
World building, right?
Well, no, it literally is. It's world building, and it
Lit.
makes the world feel more real and lived in like ours. And I think it's awesome.
Yes.
Um, so they like
She's
go
also the
across.
one that's like says the I don't know. I don't like the saying because she says it in the uh what is it, the trailer, and she's like I forgot what the first part was, but she was like, "Are you a follower or are you a fish?" And I was like, "What does that mean? I am confused. What does being a fish means? Is that
She
like
says she says
because
you're
then
in
she
my
says
net.
like
Are you a
you get
fish
in
or a
my
thief?
net."
A thief, not a fish, not a
Yes.
follower, a
I
thief.
don't
It
remember.
changes the context a little
But what
bit.
is that like? Do fish not like thief and
Fish
fish?
don't steal. Fish are morally above that. Didn't you know?
um,
Haven't you met Admiral Akbar?
yes, but I still maybe there's like context that's given in the show later, but I kind of still don't get it. Like you're a fish, you're gonna like does that mean he's gonna stay like in her net or like because like do thieves not go in nets? My dad couldn't explain it.
I think it's like because she says net, like she's looking for what she's like looking to catch things that she wants and needs. So if it's a fish, that's what she wants. And if she catches a thief, it's someone who wasn't supposed to be there, but they're among the fish and now they're caught. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
when you're fishing, you expect to get a fish. If you pull up your net and there's some like thief guy in there, that's not supposed to be there. And now he's caught.
Hmm.
Boom.
I feel like there's a way different way to like to say that. Like
Sure.
maybe like because they're on Coruscant. They're not like I get it if maybe she's from a fish planet.
Maybe
Uh,
she is from a fish planet.
hmm. Or maybe she's like not telling Cassie and she's telling like Admiral Akbar. And he's like, hey, that's rude.
Microaggressing Admiral Ash.
Yeah.
That's kind
Anyway,
of
yeah, she says that weird thing. That's the only way I
funny.
know her from.
Oh dear.
Yeah, they're in a boring meeting.
Yeah, they're in a
And
board, and they're just going over like they're talking about, and it's like it's a boring meeting, but it's also like, oh, are your prisoners up? Did you get more people in prison? Like
your quota.
it's also like it was funny because it's like, oh, these guys are in like a meeting. I've been there, but it's also like, oh, they're very casually just talking about like people's lives. Like they mentioned like arresting people on Ryloth,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is they love Ryloth,
Yeah.
and they're talking about like you know, like surveillance, because it's ISB, so it's not like, oh, is your money's doing good? It's like security stuff.
Yes. I think that's also just interesting because it's like um they're basically trying to get their quota, which
Mm-hmm.
is like exactly IRL, real
Mm-hmm.
life. Because like, you know, a cop just pulls you out of nowhere and is like, "Hey, you were speeding." No, I wasn't. Anyway, here's a ticket. Like, there's there's not, well, there shouldn't be a quota for these things because then, you know, police do that where they just kind of grab people off the street and they either rough them up or they're like, here's a ticket. Like, it's really weird that there's like there is a quota in general, and that I think it's interesting that they're putting that into this, like, hey, did you arrest this many people this month? No, you better get on that. Like, I personally don't understand the point of having one. I'm sure maybe there's not, or maybe someone can point me in the right direction if there is, but um it's also just in real life excuses for cops to come up to people and just randomly like push their power onto others. And you know, that's pretty much what the Empire does all the time. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also cool to see, um that they just do it no matter what. It's like in their business, it's what their stormtroopers do in general. Like, it works for them.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's like dark and it's like weird because like the air, like the tone of the room is very like, you get your stuff done. Like it's like how I would ask them, like, oh, did you do your homework? Like, but it's like, oh, like, did you ruin these families' lives? Like,
Yeah, it's a very casual thing for them.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's, yeah, but I think it's also funny because other, like, they also just, yeah, like they just look so bored, and I'm like, dude, what?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, hold up, we're okay with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scene really culminates with Daedra talking about she's, so there's another officer in charge of the Morlana sector, which is where Ferrix is. And he explains basically what happened in episode 3, but from a not knowing as much information point of view. Um, and he says like they recovered the Star Path unit from the warehouse, which I'm shocked that wasn't crushed and destroyed. That thing must be so durable because that whole warehouse caved down. Like not like the
Yeah.
building, but like all the chains and everything like caved down on top of it all.
Yeah.
So
It I don't know. I don't have
pure
any Star
pure
Wars
luck
excuse.
there. Pure luck
I
there.
think, you know,
I mean, it
it
could, you know,
came
something
back
just
out of pure hatred.
something, yeah, it has robot legs now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it just, you know, I guess it's like that, it just wasn't a spot where it didn't get something landed, or maybe it's like it was in between two things and then something landed on top of those things, but because it was in between
Or
the two
there's like
things, it
the
didn't like
chip
get
inside
crushed
of it.
itself. Yeah, I don't know. It's cool though. It's chill. They also mention something like they're trying to figure stuff out, and they mentioned like something that's causing trouble is increasingly protected shipping towards Scarif, which is this one's a little more small and indirect, but it's another reminder of like where this leads, you know.
Yeah, it made me sad.
You know, they say Scarif, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Anytime any Star Wars mentions like Scarif, it makes me sad. Like,
Yeah.
Lego special, they're like, oh, let's build this thing on Scarif. I'm
Scarif
like,
beach
oh,
party.
I'm like,
Yeah. Um, yeah, so then we go back to and Cassian and Lupin. Cassian.
Cassian.
And they Cassian shaves.
Yeah,
So bye bye beard Cassian.
he's a baby now.
We knew it was happening because he was beardless in many trailers, but we were still sad to see it go. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. My dad will be very
Um,
sad.
and he decides to go by Clem, which, like we mentioned earlier, it's his adoptive father's name. And Luthen goes out and he meets this woman named Vel. And he explains to Vel, like, oh, like, you have this mission here. I got this guy to help you. He like really advocates for him. And Vel is like, I don't really want to bring up some like random guy. Like, everyone's gonna be upset. And Luthen like yells at her.
Yeah,
Like,
he
it was
yelled
terrifying. It was because he, like, you know, he always had like, he was kind of gruff, like a little bit of a rough demeanor to him. But he like yelled, and I was like scared. I was like, oh my gosh, it was very intimidating.
Yeah. And then like he like didn't apologize, but he was like, hey, it's like
Right.
it'll be okay. Like
no, literally,
woman.
I need Luthen to yell at me to do my stuff, like to my homework, because
You should have like a ringer that
I
just
know,
is
but I
him
need it
yelling.
I need it tailored for me to like get up,
Okay.
go to the gym, go to your room, like right now.
Let's see if my dad can voice him.
That's like a new service you can provide.
Yeah.
Make some credits. Yeah, so Vel doesn't want to, and he kind of convinces / makes her.
Yeah, yells at
also,
her.
I just gotta say, I hate to be that guy. I think she might be like his daughter or something. Okay, like I think, you know, I just feel like there's some kind of connection there, and I feel like the actress kind of looks like him.
Well,
I hate to be that guy.
is she?
It's like everyone is someone.
Kids?
It's like everyone is someone's daughter, like everyone's someone's parent. But I feel like maybe not. But I just,
I mean, the way he yelled at her was
very intense,
scary. I also think it could just be like the importance of this meeting, but like also, yeah, everyone's dad could be whoever. Like at this point, it's kind of the only thing that's like, like you can't be your observation can't be as ridiculous as being like Jin is Ray's mom.
Yeah, like, I'm just saying. I think it's a possibility.
Yes,
I'm not gonna die on the hill. I just think the hill is there.
Gotcha.
That's all. That's all.
I'm
sitting on the hill, but you know, if I get pushed off, I'll go sledding. It's fine.
I acknowledge your hill. And I sit in between hills.
You sit halfway up the hill?
Yes.
Okay, I respect that. I'm just saying. I haven't
so
seen
once you go
before.
sledding off, I will also go sledding off.
Got it. I'll grab you on the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go back to the pre-War headquarters. So we have we have Chief Inspector Hine. So the like guy that did not give a shit.
Yeah.
When Cyril tried to bring it to him. We have Cyril and also Linus Mosk, the other leader dude.
Yes.
And they're all getting yelled at by ISB. And I really appreciated Hine being like, listen, I told him not to, like, I had nothing to do with it. And immediately they're like, no, shut up. You're all fired. And then like we're shutting down your, like, we're not using your company or whatever, like we're shutting this all down like this. We're just gonna use stormtroopers. Which is like, I don't know if this is a positive or negative. It's really not. It's the same. They all suck. But I just, like I said last time, I just think it's really funny. Like, I don't know, Cyril's just like this guy, and they're just like kicking him when he's down. It's just really funny. I enjoy it. This makes me sound absolutely terrible. But it's like, he's just so pathetic. It's just so funny.
I mean, I think that's kind of the point, but I'm not sure.
It's great. So they they shut down the whole thing, which is, you know, Cyril really did this to himself, right? Because he was told to ignore it. And I can't entirely blame him for wanting to investigate a murder. You know, in a different story, he would have absolutely been the protagonist.
Yes.
You know, like I can't blame him for wanting to investigate a murder when he's told to just ignore it. Like that is kind of messed up. But like he was told to ignore it. Like he just kept pushing. He was treating people poorly, and now it all blew up in his face. He ended up having more officers dead than he started with. And now his company, his little pre-war thing, he was so proud of, it's all gone because of him. So good job, Cyril.
You did it, Cyril.
He did it. You know, he's really he's really the king. You know, he dismantled the Primor.
Yeah.
What a
protagonist.
What a dude.
Single-handedly.
Yeah, so we go back to Eldani and Cassian and Vel are walking, and it's a very beautiful area that they shot this in. Clem.
He will be acknowledged as Clem for the next 5 days.
Clem walks with Vel, and they're like hiking over hills. It's gorgeous. I don't know where they shot this. I should look it up. It's absolutely beautiful. These rolling green hills, some rocks.
Those are the hills that we're on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much reminds me of it's probably like Ireland or Scotland because it reminded me of like Octo. But wherever they shot it, it's beautiful. And they're hiking, and Cassian's like, "Who's Lupin?" And she's like, "You should ask him." Which is fair.
Yeah.
It's again like if she doesn't really want to talk about who he is, I'm just saying like there can be a little, you know, maybe something there. And so she tells him that they're going to rob the armory of the Aldani garrison. They're trying to avoid some TIE fighters that's flying around. It was cool to see a TIE fighter this way because I feel like
scared me, bro.
I know because I feel like we're so used to like the space battles where it's like, oh, a TIE fighter, look at you, no shields getting blown up. But like this is kind of scary to have a TIE fighter flying over you.
Yeah, I don't even have like because usually when I'm watching these shows, it's like late, and I try not to be loud after like 10 or 11 p.m. for my roommates, depending on the day. And I didn't even have the freaking like TV. I usually have it like, you know, like 6. But like that TIE fighter, just like I felt the room rumble. Like it was so loud and it was scary, especially because like Cassian was like, hold on. And it was quiet. And then they hid. And then it happened.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, it was scary. Yeah, so they hide from the TIE fighter. They're like just walking back to their little place. We go back to Deidre, and she realizes that the Star Path was probably one that was stolen from one of her places that she's in charge of. So she wants jurisdiction to investigate it. So she tries to she's gonna try and get information about it. I'm not sure exactly what her motive is, like, you know, besides maybe getting her star path back or figuring out what happened to it, but I'm not sure if there's like more to that. This feels like a lot of effort. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this is when we get Lupin doing his little Hannah Montana.
His Hannah Montana?
He puts on a wig and he changes his clothes and he does like a little, you know, he like practices his little show. It's Hannah Montana. I didn't even watch Hannah Montana, but I know
I also didn't watch Hannah Montana, but I understand.
Yeah, she like puts on a wig and then she like does her little like she's a different person. She like does a little act. It's what he does.
Interesting. He also sings. Not in the show.
Oh.
But
maybe he should.
Yeah, I think he should.
Anyway, he like, cause it was a really cool scene, like from a character moment to be like, like he's practicing to do an act for Big Brother, which is cool. It was also just funny because he's like a little hand
Guy.
we go back to Aldani. Vel talks to Cassie or Clem, sorry, a little bit about the history of the Aldani Highlands. Talks about how like the people were pushed out of their like towns, and out of their like a lot of them lived independently and they were pushed out of there too, so that they could mine, the Empire could mine and stuff. Which is similar, which again, if they shot, because this definitely gives you the feel of Ireland or Scotland, and if they might have shot it there, but that is also similar to the history of Scotland and what happened to the people there in Ireland as well, I believe. And I mean a lot of places.
Yeah,
but
like specifically
the connection because of the location, the look of the location, just that was most prevalent for me. And I like how the Wikipedia article I'm using to keep tracks just says Andor drinks water from a creek. Like they just move on to the next scene.
Thank you.
You need to know he drinks water from a creek.
Yeah, thank you.
It's top tier information. Yeah, Cassian drinks water from Clem, drinks water from a creek. And then we go over and Daedra's she goes to the other officer and she's like, hey, you need to give me information about the Starpath unit, like it's related to my stuff. And he's like, absolutely not. Like, I'm higher ranked than you. And she's like, well, I'm gonna go to our boss.
Yeah, there was a very childish moment right there.
It was definitely like, it's like another kind of thing where it's like, the Empire is doing all these horrible things. They're also immature and power hungry and squabble over whatever. Like, like it's just so interesting. Then we get back. So Phil and Clem are walking down the hill, and then there's another rebel sleeping against a rock, and a guy points a gun at his face, and I was like, oh man. And the guy was like, hey, we all died when we fell. It was really funny. It was like, hey, we all died while you were sleeping.
Sad, but like yeah.
It happens. We've all, I mean, not in real life, but we've all had the D&D characters having to do watch, and then someone falls asleep or doesn't pay attention, rolls a really bad perception roll.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they roll for sleep?
We roll for perception, and if you roll really bad in perception, you might as well be asleep.
Gotcha.
And sometimes someone's like, if they're trying to be funny with their character, they're like, yeah, my character's just gonna go to sleep. This is funny for a good laugh. And we all die for this good laugh.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding, we don't all die. So Clem arrives in this little camp of all these rebels. And everyone's like, I don't like this guy. I don't know him. And Cassian, he's just very sweet. He's just like, he doesn't really say anything, doesn't argue. He's just like, okay, I'm sorry you don't like me. He doesn't say that, but that's like, he's just like kind of taking it.
Yeah, he's just like, all right. I mean, sure.
That's fair. I'd probably be the same way.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was like angry with the people because I was like, dude, he's trying to help, but also I can understand like, because I'm not controlling, but like if something new happens, like
great way to start a sentence.
Yeah, I know. If something new happens and I'm like, I already planned out for like months, weeks, whatever, and something just new comes up, like I get that. It's a little frustrating because then you have to account for this guy coming in. And then as far as like I don't really have to worry about like the betrayal or whatever, but like what if like obviously we know Cassian won't betray them, but they don't know that. Like they're fighting for their lives. And if this thing doesn't work according to Luthen, like they could lose everything. And so then I was like, okay, all right, I get it. Just don't hurt my baby. He's okay. He's doing his best. He can cook for you guys. Like,
Yeah. think we should.
But yeah, he goes in. He also has like a cut up arm, so they go and they fix him up. But they're like, yeah, we don't have enough painkillers, so sorry.
Oh yeah, I think
And
that
then
was from the shootout
yes,
in the warehouse. Yeah.
I'm
And like
surprised it
some
was
of them,
still like bleeding.
yeah, and it was interesting to see Vel really put her like uh leader face on. Like we knew she did not want to take Clem. She was mad at Luthen for making her take him, and she like didn't really trust him terribly much. She hated that he as far as she knows, like he's just a mercenary and for the money. So she hated that he, in her mind, wasn't someone who actually cared about the cause.
Yeah.
But as soon as she introduced him, she's like completely defending him, and she's like, it was just cool to see her do it, and also doing exactly what she was mad at Luthen for, And I can't really blame her because she was just kind of put in that situation, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just really cool, and also interesting that like these people don't seem to know about Luthen.
Yeah. Like it seems, and then we learn later that like Mon Mothma is like funding this like through like her own money, and Lucid is getting that money, and giving it to these people and like helping out the cause by giving money and like organizing these like things. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a point and I forgot. But anyway, yeah, like I think it's interesting because like Luthen is pretty much anonymous. And honestly, it's probably because he isn't. I thought at first like he was supposed to be this political figure from like what the like trailers were showing, but like it just seems like he's just like, I don't know. Do you think he's a political figure or is he like just a really rich guy
I think
like
he's a really
that has
rich guy who
status?
owns he has status and he owns his shop. But
Okay.
I mean, he is a political figure, just not publicly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we have that little discussion. Um, then we have um Cyril Khan goes home, which is on Coruscant. He's from Coruscant, and he walks
Yes.
up, and he it
Hannah
was
Montana's.
so it was so funny. He just walks up and like completely like no emotion goes, mother, and like who does that? Who does that? That's what I'm gonna do when I come home from California. I'm gonna go, mother. My mom won't slap me,
Mother.
but his mom slapped him, and then she hugs him and like brings him into the front. And some other lady is watching, and she's like, "What are you like?" I don't know. It was just so like he's just such a little pathetic little man. Like,
It's funny though because she like, I don't know if she's Hispanic, but she gives me very Hispanic vibes. And I don't, maybe it was just the slap, but also, but she
oh
was like,
dear.
"What are you looking at?" And then like, brings him inside, probably gave him like some like Mexican rice and beans, like I don't know, like
This is
she made
so funny.
tamales for him.
It was a very funny scene, and I'm very curious to see where his character goes from here. Like, is he going to get worse or is he going to get better? I think he's going to get worse.
Yeah.
I hope he gets worse. I want to watch
I
that.
think it's interesting. Like, other than like, I guess people getting, I don't like, why would she slap him except to think like, oh, he's dead? But also, like, what if she didn't want him to take that job in the first place? What if she was like, hey, that doesn't seem great?
Maybe it's been visited in a while.
That
Like
too.
there's so much that could mean. I'm just so curious of where he's gonna go. Like, are we gonna get an episode of him laying on his mom's couch eating blue noodles? Like,
Yeah.
there's just so many places the story can go. I hope he gets worse.
Okay.
Redemption arcs are fun. I want to watch him get worse. Um,
Interesting.
I just think it'll be funny.
Yeah.
um,
Funny.
I'm just, entertainment. Um, anyway, we skip this part. I cannot find this in Wikipedia, but we
Wow.
see We skipped a paragraph. Anyway, I'm gonna look for it. We see Mon Mothma finally, and I was like, "That's my girl." I've been so hyped for Mon Mothma, and I'm so glad we finally got to see
Like
her.
I got so excited seeing her. I was like, oh, it's her. It's the queen.
She's here.
It's time.
She's the Mon Moth moment. Um, and she goes into this artifact shop, which is not run. There's a young woman there, and she has a driver there, but it's run by Luthen Rail, but in Hannah Montana form.
Yes.
And she says she's trying to get something for her husband's Day of Days, which is a Chandrilla custom. I don't know what it means. Is it his birthday?
Yeah, it sounds like a birthday
It sounds
thing.
like a birthday. Who knows? I found it.
A gift.
Playa is his thing. And so they're like, oh, have a little. He's like, oh, she's like, he's a big collector, and they like do a little thing. Playa, his assistant, who we didn't see terribly much of her, but reading her little data bank profile, she seems pretty cool. I hope we do see more of, get to explore her more. She kind of talks to the driver and like shows him stuff, and they go in the back to ostensibly look at something. And then Luthen, he's still in his Hannah Montana costume, but he switches back to Miley Cyrus. And his voice change also was really surprising because like he's a very gravelly voice when he's in Miley Cyrus mode, but he's like a very light, like showboaty voice when he's Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
That I thought was
very theater kid.
Yeah, but it's like smooth. It's like the cigarettes are gone. Like
yeah.
but then they go behind a little screen and they're instantly like hushed voices. He's back to being a gravelly voice. And Moth was like, I think they're spying on me. Like, I got this new driver. And she says she has a new ally she thinks she wants to bring in.
Ally.
And Luthen is very he's not thrilled about that. He's like, we can't trust anyone. And she's like,
which is fair.
Yeah, but she's like, listen, like, I'm putting my life on the line. Like if anyone found out what I was doing, I'd be done. Like I'd be the first one to fall. I'm glad she said that because I feel like, not that I don't know. I don't want to compare, be like, oh, these people have better, these people have worse. Like obviously, every day, like the rebel like soldiers, like Cassian, are putting themselves in more physical danger. But like Mon Mothma is also very much in danger by choosing to do what she does. Like it's not really that much less of a risk for her. It just looks very different.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she said that because now when people are like, oh, like Baylor Khan and Mon Mothma, like they weren't real rebels. They were just, I'm like, no, they were so important. They did so much. They were in so much danger. You shut up. Shut up.
Go away with your opinions.
Beat you back with us too.
On the hill.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see who Mon Mothma's ally is. It could very well be, a new character. But it could also be just, it could be because we know Saw is in this show. And I'm like, man, like what if it's Saw? Like what if Mon Mothma tries to recruit Saw?
And that's what I was thinking. But also
obviously at this point, Saw's already been doing rebel things.
Yeah.
But it's so like, what if Mon Mothma? Because we're still a couple years away from either of them appearing in Rebels. So
yeah, like, I was thinking like if that were to happen,
bring him in and then does a relationship fracture? Because I feel like that's so much more interesting than Mon Mothma just seeing what he's doing from afar and disapproving.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So because he's already doing rebel stuff, she just like again they're trying to recruit rebel cells, like the ghost, like Bale's working on the ghost crew at the moment. Like they're recruiting different people, and I don't know. I really hope we know he's gonna be in the show either way, but I just think the drama is so good.
Drama,
and I love the drama. Also, we have to talk about Luthen's shop because there's a lot of really cool stuff in the background there. They have Star Killer's armor and helmet.
I didn't notice, but I noticed there was armor, and I was like, "Oh, that's some cool looking armor."
They have Star Killer's helmet and armor, which is absolutely crazy. I don't expect they're not gonna make like Force Unleashed canon And like I don't think Lord Starkiller would be in canon the way he is in the games, but a version of him, like sort of like well, like they can even move timelines, whatever. A version of him would be neat. Also, more Sam Witwer.
Yes.
We also see
I can always agree with that.
We always see a set of Mandalorian armor, very shiny and chrome, similar to the Mandalorians, but not exactly. We have what look like Sith and Jedi holocrons. So that's cool. How do you get that? Great question. We have a Twi'lek Calicori. This one looks very different than Hera's. It looks a bit more like wiry and shiny, which is interesting. We have some tablets with inscriptions from the World Between Worlds, like mural thing from Rebels, which is also crazy. There's also he's a rack of things frozen in carbonite, not people things, and one looks kind of like Indiana Jones' whip, which is just cool. Yeah, so there's a lot in that scene. I'm sure there's more, but those were like the ones
the top
most exciting
ones
for me. Yeah, and the ones that were most visible. So I assume we'll probably spend more time in this gallery, in which case we'll see even more. I know there's a preview released of a scene in this gallery. I didn't watch the preview, but it had a Keldor face mask in it, which I did not see in this scene, so I assume it's another episode. If it's Plo Koon's, I will die.
Well, he did die.
That's not nice. Yeah, that's the gallery. And then after the gallery, way later, Mon Mothma goes home, and her husband is like, "Oh, we're having a dinner party tonight." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I told you." And she's like, "Oh, I forgot. I've been busy." And he shows her the guest list, and it has Ars Dangor and Sly Moore. Sly Moore was a character. I was like, "Wow, they really did that. That's crazy." If we see Sly Moore in this show, it's absolutely insane.
Remind me who that is again.
So it's really not anybody.
Okay.
It's a background character from either Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. I know they're in some comics, but I haven't read any of the comics she's in. But she's just look up Sly Moore to get a picture. She's really creepy looking. But she was with like Masameda and Palpatine when he took power.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she's horrifying.
They said Sly Moore, and I was like, wow, they really reached her depth.
She and Serial would get along because they would just like openly eyed, like just stare at each other. Like one with blue eyes and one with white eyes.
Oh dear. Yeah, so he mentioned her on the guest list, and then also Ars Dangor, who is from the Tarkin and Catalyst books, who was also an high-ranking Imperial who sucks. Yeah, that's basically it. So he mentions them, and Mothma is like, "Oh well, if you're inviting them, you should probably invite some guests from the Gorman, since they voted to cut off their shipping lanes yesterday, and they're starving." Which is also a nice reference to Rebels, where we see Mon Mothma officially like resigns from the Imperial Senate in protest to what's happening to the Gorman. So that's like a cool kind of long game that they're playing there. And Mothma's like, "I can't believe you invite these people. Like you shouldn't have this party." And he's like, "Oh, come on, like I'll put you at the other end of the table. You're so boring. These people are fun. Yeah, Sly Moore is fun, guys."
Yeah, didn't you know?
Life of the party.
Yeah. She like break dances. Like she's intense, bro.
I want to go clubbing with Sly Moore.
Like she's all over the place.
She's insane. She absolutely, yeah. And
but
like, so boring. Her husband sucks. He's so hard.
She deserves so much better.
Mon Mothma, I could treat you so much better.
Yeah.
Like
Like
literally,
so many people have your
he
back.
sucked. So they did a data bank and thing, and it's or not a data bank. I think this was an interview with Genevieve O'Reilly. Um, so it was an arranged marriage when they're 16, which sucks. And Mom Wolf has a daughter, is presumably with him. So I kind of want to meet her daughter,
Unfortunate.
which is kind of cool. I hope she's cool. If she's like her dad,
Yeah.
get rid of her. But
Yeah,
um,
I was just like, really? Like,
yeah, it
no.
was an
Like,
arranged marriage, not her fault. He sucks so hard. I think we should get a divorce court episode.
yes.
Um, and she gets represented by a Star Wars lawyer,
It's my
and
mom.
yes, it's your mom, and yeah, he's trash.
Yeah.
On the other hand, her apartment is beautiful. Her fit is
Yes, it's
beautiful.
white
It's
as
yeah,
heck.
because I think the only Coruscant apartment, like senator apartment we've seen, besides like Jedi one, like is like Padme's, which is very colorful, very very Padme, you know. And
Mhm.
Mon Mothma is still like just as lavish, but like very very white, which I guess is a very Chandrila thing. Assuming I mean maybe Mon Mothma just likes white, but I assume all the white she wears and stuff is a Chandrila thing. Could just be her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Like, yeah, she has the confidence that she can stay clean and white.
Yeah, no, the
I
cleaning
could never.
droids must be insane.
Yeah.
Um,
But I just it I hated her husband because like it's just it's very much like because he's like, well, they're fun, like they're so cool, but it's like, dude, they're sucky people, like they're awful, like they're
he's sucky people, so that's why they get along.
yeah. Well, that's the thing is like it's weird because it was very much realistic because it's like you know um you have those people in your lives that like you guys are politically different and it's one thing to be civilized with them but it's another thing to be friends with them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
um I know that like when a bunch of politics stuff was happening and voting that like some people were cutting off friends that like voted like differently than them and sometimes and like in a way there and then there was other people that were like yeah it sucks that people are like unfriending other people like their friends from a long time because of who they like voted for, like that's so stupid, but like sometimes it's I'm like I kind of get it, but also like if you're voting for someone that like say is against me even living, like why would I be friends with you? Like if you're actively voting for someone to constantly be taking away certain rights of mine, like why would I want to be your friend? It's or like why would I think you're cool? Like sure you might have like a fun personality and like I don't know, you dance cool, you have the best jokes, but also in the end like it's like a weird way to have a friendship, but also I can't say much because I don't have a lot of friendships, but it's like it's very much that and it's very like awkward to have like a husband who Mon Mothma didn't choose, but um awkward to have like a husband who's bringing in all these people that he deems as fun and like cool and like still his friends no matter what, like even though they're voting against these things that Mon Mothma is fighting for, like that's like weird and
I hope
like
he dies.
uncalled for. Yes, I agree. I agree, and hopefully, if Andor is still going with who I want to get deaded, then maybe it will happen.
Listen, Tony Gilroy said this show is a high death count. I'm just
Then
saying. I'm just saying.
maybe he gets poisoned at the dinner, and then there's a dinner like murder mystery.
That would be fun. Um, Yeah, he's
very
sucks.
not. Well, I guess it kind of is Star Warsy, but like not
I
really.
hope yeah, I hope she divorces him and has a like a revenge era. I think she can pull
Yes.
it off. Yeah, he sucks. Then we go back to Aldani. And they have, so we find out that the rebels have someone in the garrison, Lieutenant Gorn, who is
Warren.
Gorn, who is working with them basically, despite being in the Empire. Tells them there's an Imperial engineer that's visiting from Coruscant. I'm sure it's no one. Could be someone. The only one really is um Galen or so, which it probably won't be. But just point it out. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not on that hill at all, really. I'm just, the hill is there. I'm just not.
There's
not
a few
not even
hills.
halfway. There's quite a few hills. We are in the highlands. So they go through their little plan on how to like get into the base and stuff. Oh, and I love the setup because it reminds me. It's like my dream. I keep talking about Dungeons and Dragons on the podcast. It's like my dream D&D setup to have a whole like all my minis have a whole like building set. Like,
Yeah,
want to play D&D with this guy.
I saw it and I was like, I know who did that. I know who in this group created that. And then they were like, "Thank you so much. Thank you for their the setup." And then the little guy, he's like, "Yeah. Careful with that one." I was like, "You might die, and I will be sad."
Yeah, they all could die. I'm just accepting that. But so they like have their little plan. And there's this like meteor shower that happens, and they're kind of using that as like a distraction. It's just like really pretty. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, the
effects are gonna go hard, and I'm really excited. They're gonna use it as a distraction, and Cassian's like, "Oh, like we're just gonna go and like we can't really get out. Like it's a suicide mission." I'm like, God, don't say that. Like and it's not even like, oh man, he might die this time. I know he won't. I just know what happens eventually.
Yeah, like they might die. He might get depressed, and they might die. Is the problem?
I don't care about them that much, but I'm like, man, don't say it. Cassian's like, it's too dangerous. I can't do a rebel mission that's too dangerous. It's like, oh no, Cassian.
Oh, Cassian, don't you worry.
We also see Deja go to the major, the dude, and she and the other guy, and they're like arguing. She's like, I have jurisdiction, and he's like, no, you don't. And the major's basically like, really, guys, you really, you're creating friction over nothing. You guys suck. You don't have enough evidence. Stick to your own sector. And he goes back to like some reports and stuff. It was kind of funny. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm interested in her character. Some of the interviews have hinted at her and Cyril working together. I think that's interesting because she's a little bit like him.
Yes.
I'm excited.
I think it would be also interesting if he was like depressed on the couch and she was like, "Hey, let's be friends. You were so
she
cool."
She could totally contact him trying to get information still about the Star Path and that whole incident.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what happens next. I can't wait for Wednesday. I can't believe they didn't give us another 3 episodes. Only get one a week now. How am I supposed to live like this?
I think this is what they did before.
I know, but I just want to watch it all so bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway. We'll get it. There's a few more days. 3 more.
Couple more days. Well, and that's actually the end of the episode. That I think we cut back very quickly back to Cassie or Clem or whatever. in the little camp and they're like getting ready, but nothing like crazy happens right at the end.
Yeah. The only thing was like they were like, "Hey, you got to be ready and memorize this entire thing."
That's
Which
right. They do
like,
have to memorize stuff.
calm down. Like, chill out. But also, like, I understand because, like, it's a whole mission and, like, he needs to know exactly what's happening at all times. He needs to know, like, the planet's lore, I guess.
Yeah.
So, like, I get it, but also, like, dang, bro.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up here. I have 2 hours left to play Overwatch 1 before it goes offline forever. So I'm gonna do that. Yeah. So for plugs, so you can find the Star Wars Geek Girl Facebook page is Star Wars Geek Girl, Twitter and Instagram at SWGeekGirl. StarWarsGeekGirl.com is the website. We have a poll every month, book reviews on Mondays, quizzes on Wednesdays, and blog articles on Fridays. And you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Spectre_5, 5 written out, not just the number. And I'm on Twitter at Zoeka. Just replace the SO with Zoe in Ahsoka.
Yes. For the Rogue Rebels plugs, you got the roguerebels.com, Instagram and TikTok at the Rogue Rebels, Twitch at Rogue Rebels, podcast wherever you're listening to Star Wars Geek Girl. I'm gonna say it again. My dad has made amazing like sections in Spotify so that way you can like figure out what you want to listen to that day. What are you in the mood for? Clone Wars, he's got it. Rebels, he's got it, bro. So yeah, check that out. And then the Facebook page is the Rogue Rebels and Twitter at Rogue Rebels Fam. Yeah. And I also did a drawing.
You did. I just posted the drawing on Star Wars Geek Girl Twitter as well. At
Yes.
SW Geek Girl.
Yes. Yay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. I was Zoe.
I was Lizzy.
May the force be with you, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes